Hello. Probably. Anyways, most likely. Let's see. There we are. Greetings and salutations, friends. We have some news to discuss. Some pretty big, cool news, too, as the deal between Amazon and GW appears to have actually finally resulted in something at the 11th hour, literally. I mean, more like the 24th hour, I suppose, because we already went way over the initial deadline, which was supposed to be this summer. And the second deadline was now, like 2 weeks away, if that? So we were cutting this pretty gosh darn close, but the official announcement is now out, as we can see here on Henry Cavill's own Instagram. To celebrate some Warhammer news, I decided to make a pilgrimage to the very first place I bought Warhammer Middles over 30 years ago, the little shop on my home island of Jersey. My incredible team and I, alongside the brilliant minds at Games Workshop, have been working away in concept rooms, breaking down approaches to the enormity and magnificence of the Warhammer world. Together, we've been sifting through the plethora of incredible characters and poring over old tomes and texts. Our combined efforts have led us to a fantastic place to start our universe, which has been agreed upon by those up on high at both Amazon and Games Workshop. That starting place shall for now remain a secret. Watch this space, though, more to come. So, this is going to take a very long time, mind you. A very, very, very long time. Because I mean, they've now agreed on the guidelines. There's been a little bit of, like, here and there stuff coming out about it. There doesn't appear to be any, script or anything in production. They were supposed to be working on a script that they were going to pitch. That was what I heard last that they were working on. I don't know if that's come to fruition, or if they've simply now agreed on agreeing to work together, as initially, of course, they reached an agreement in principle. That was like a year ago now, where they said, okay, we are both going to do our best to actually arrive at an agreement here, and now they've finally gone like, okay, these are the guidelines. Now, this, of course, also comes from the fact that Henry Cavill will be starring and executive producing in this as well, which is very, very good news. Though, we must then point out that Cavill himself is not going to be immediately available for a little while, as I believe, let's see here, I think they announced that they were starting shooting on Highlander a little while ago. Yeah, I think so. Yes, so Highlander is starting, and he was also starting in another Amazon show as well. What was it here? Ah, yes, here we go. Where he's going to be playing a role in Voltron, too. So there is quite a lot of demands on Henry Cavill's time at the moment. Quite a lot of demands, actually. So this ain't gonna go ahead for what? They're probably gonna now get back to writing for like another year, probably, maybe more. Then they're gonna need to like lay out the production schedule, begin hiring people, setting up a team. That's gonna be another 6 months to a year. Then they're actually gonna need to start filming and shooting, another year. So I would be surprised if we see anything coming out of this within 3-4 years, probably. So it's going to be a while before we see just how much of a show this will turn out to be and what exactly it's going to be as well. Now, they did mention here that they had agreed upon a starting point, a fantastic place to start our universe. Now, we may be extrapolating a little bit here, of course, but hey, what are we on the internet for if not to extrapolate, right? So, universe. This suggests to me that they might be planning on a larger scope and scale thing. that they might be ordering multiple seasons immediately, or even potentially multiple shows, as Amazon does have a habit of doing this previously as well, ordering in bulk, presuming things to be a hit, since it's, well, easier to keep it rolling if you get everything set up, you get work on the first season, and you start releasing it, even as you're working on the second season. Caped Crusader, the recent not at all Batman show, for example, did just that, with 2 seasons ordered before the first episode even aired. I think the new X-Men show, too, received like a 3-season order, again before anything had actually been shown. This is both an advantage and a massive disadvantage, as of course on the bright side, it does allow you to continue production much easier, but it also, as in the case of Rings of Power, mean that you are fully committed to paying the entire budget immediately, so... yeah, as Rings of Power is going ahead, it's been confirmed for a 3rd season as well, of course. Now, this is also then a little bit potentially backed up by the scope and scale of the agreement, so there was an interesting little article here. Now, of course, all of this is a little bit, like, circumspect at this point, a little bit speculation and so on, but there was a couple of very, very interesting things. Let's see. The deal includes associated merchandise rights for any film or television show produced by Amazon. Now, this is a big deal right here. This is a very, very potentially big deal. Because what that means is that they've basically signed away their rights to produce stuff for this setting, as I said here on the Twitters. Ouch. According to this, Amazon has all rights for merchandise associated with the TV show and exclusive rights to create movies or TV shows. So, the initial rumor we heard back when they signed the agreement in principle ages ago now might actually be true, that Games Workshop, in their eagerness to sign a deal with Amazon, signed away way too much. And then they needed to actually set out very, 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 very specific guidelines for Amazon and what they could and could not create, because they'd essentially handed them the keys to the castle to dictate their own reality and to create the merchandise around it exclusively for their own benefit. This is enormous, because it means that Games Workshop basically doesn't have a whole lot of benefits from this left. Now, one would presume that GW would be smart enough to add in a part of the agreement there, where they say, okay, you're going to give us a percentage of the profits at the very least, right? Because as it stands right now, they don't have merchandise rights, which means they can't produce anything related to the show whatsoever, so if it becomes a big hit, well, there you go, a big hit, then all GW can do is zip it, shut up, produce nothing, and earn nothing. It will also mean, of course, that they probably can't actually do anything, like, from Black Library's standpoint, like producing books around it, for example. Big deal. And the fact that they've also signed over all of the future rights for television and TV shows means that GW can't do anything in that regard either if this becomes a big hit. And that's, of course, merely talking about, like, the immediate financial potential drawbacks. If we are to look at this from a more cynical perspective, it means, in essence, that Amazon has full and complete control over the cinematic universe, within the guidelines that have now been set down by GW, which in turn means that whatever is put into the Amazon TV show, well, that's canon to the cinematic 40K universe. A cinematic 40K universe that now Amazon has exclusive rights to. So, if they say, let's be cynical right off the bat here and address the elephant in the room. If Amazon says, female space marines are real, then, well, shit. Female space marines are real. They are real, at least as far as the cinematic universe goes. It would also allow them to do to 40K what they tried to do with the Rings of Power. So I talked about this on several occasions on the leading up to the Rings of Power and when they actually finally released. The Rings of Power was in essence Amazon's attempt to take over the name of Lord of the Rings. It was their attempt to create a separate and equivalent canon to the Lord of the Rings, where they could go, oh, no, this isn't the Lord of the Rings universe, we don't need to pay you royalties or anything, this is the Amazon Lord of the Rings universe, you silly willy. Look at all of our original characters, from which they could then just, well, coup the entire goddamn thing, in essence. Now, fortunately, the quality of the Rings of Power somewhat prevented that. It outright knocked the feet right from underneath those plans, in fact. But there's also the danger. If this becomes a really good show, well, GW is now sitting there with essentially a separate and equivalent version of Warhammer 40k, over which they own no rights, beyond those rights that have been determined in the license, as in exactly what Amazon can do. Now, this is a thing as well. GW is usually rather strict when it comes to their license agreements, very strict. Normally, GW will parcel out pieces of the IP at a time. They'll go like, okay, we are going to give you the Space Marines. We are going to give you the Ultramarines. We are going to give you this specific character in the Ultramarines. Like, you have the right to use Gilliman, for example, or you have the right to use Dante of the Blood Angels and stuff like that. And you must then license it for, like, slice by slice by slice. So if you want Orcs and Space Marines, you are going to need to license the Orcs, and you are going to license the Space Marines. And potentially, you might even need to license, like, the Goths, the clan, and the chapter of the Space Marines. And you might then also need to do licenses for, you know, planets, settings, battleships, you know, classes, everything. Now, GW does this to retain as much creative control as humanly possible, and that is a wise decision to make. The question then is, how exact were they with Amazon? That's the big question. Because since they've already given away all merchandise rights, which is... It seems ridiculous. This is a company that makes a living primarily of making miniatures, and they have given away all opportunities to create miniatures around this show? That sounds very, very stupid to me. So that suggests that the deal was not great from GW's side of things. They've also given away the rights to create any competing products as well. Now, I would assume, mind you, that they've sliced out a separate area for Warhammer Plus. It would be, well, here's the thing. The logical way of thinking here would be that GW's agreement says, okay, you have exclusive rights over TV and movies, but not, like, YouTube content, basically. And thus Warhammer Plus is still the sole purview of Games Workshop. That would be the sensible thing to do. Alternatively, Warhammer Plus is probably not doing very well. From the last few economic reports we've gotten out of Games Workshop, Warhammer Plus appears to be largely a money sink. So it is also conceivable that they're going to throw the baby out with the bathwater, choke that out, and save their costs. As they have poured a lot of development cost into Warhammer Plus, they did a lot of PR damage to themselves by threatening the various artists by going, you need to shut down your Patrons, everything, you gotta stop all of this. Only we get to do this. And then lose most of the artists in the process. Oh, God. But it might be that they're now looking at just shutting all of that down as well. That is the second possibility. And the third is that they've gotten screwed by Amazon, which I'd like to believe that's not the case, because the potential implications of that would be wide-reaching, shall we say. Extraordinarily wide-reaching. As of course, here's the thing too, GW is going to get the blame for whatever Amazon does here. So we basically arrive at a bit of a paradoxical situation. Henry Cavill will be executive producing, which will mean that he will be given a certain amount of authority, which is good, because I do trust him to do his best to make a good show. He will be starring in it, but starring is a loose term, and whether or not he will have a leading role or a side role, or if he will simply just be relegated to, narrator or something, that's also up in the air, as we don't know how much authority he's going to get. But he definitely has the support of the fans, if nothing else. Amazon, that's a good way to lay it out. Motivations. Okay, so GW's motivation here is pretty simple. They want to expand the view of their universe. Simple enough. They want to build it up, spread it out, and make sure that as many people get to see it as possible. And in that regard, Amazon is an excellent partner, because Amazon is an enormous company with enormous resources. They can bring the world of 40K to life quite effectively, very, very well. They can give it all the CGI it needs, they can give it all of the sound they need, all of this stuff, and they've got the marketing arm to do it as well. From Henry Cavill's perspective, this is an opportunity to create his favorite universe on the big screen, and of course to have basically steady employment for the next 3 to 4 years. His motivations are pretty obvious there. And then there's Amazon. What would be Amazon's motivation in all of this? Well, number one, of course, is simply money. Easy enough. But how much money? Because if all they wanted to do was earn money, then the Rings of Power would probably not be a fantastic investment, as things are turning out right now. But, of course, they couldn't know that precedingly. So, what does Amazon's track record show us? Well, Rings of Power was an old-established IP that they tried to seize, to straight up Shanghai and take over. What are the odds they'll try the same with 40K? Well, with Lord of the Rings, they were getting into a very old, very established setting. They had to deal with IP owners and rights owners that already knew that their stuff was popular. They understood what it was worth. And so they were going to be a bit crotchety to deal with. On the other hand, as we just mentioned, Games Workshop's primary motivation here is going to be PR, to finally break out into the mainstream, which is the carrot that Amazon is holding up in front of their faces. Similarly, whenever GW has actually tried to do this themselves, they have failed miserably. So, they're probably not too eager to try it themselves again. It is therefore possible that Amazon might have taken a little bit of advantage of GW, gotten the best deal they conceivably could, and now they're looking and thinking, okay, this is the next big thing. This is the new Star Wars, and we own it before it becomes Star Wars. Imagine a scenario, right, where Star Wars was a tabletop game made by George Lucas, and it had a dedicated audience, certainly, but it wasn't renowned, it wasn't world famous, it wasn't mainstream, and then along comes a corporation, Disney, for example, and goes, hey, we're gonna release this to the world, but we're going to have exclusive rights over those movies, leaving Lucas with nothing more than the miniatures and them with the entire cinematic universe. If Amazon plays this the way I guarantee you Amazon wants to play it, they will be sitting there with the biggest, most visible, most well-known slice of the IP, and GW will be reduced to a leech on Amazon's back, the intellectual property holder, to be used, abused, and threatened into giving up whatever rights the owner of the more valuable part of the IP dictates. Now, this is a cynical idea here, don't get me wrong, but you're gonna tell me Amazon isn't a cynical company? You really? After Rings of Power? I don't know. I think they might be. I'm fairly certain, actually. I do not trust Amazon's intentions in this one itty-bitty bit. I think they will, be given a centimeter, and they will try to take the proverbial mile out of it. Now, GWs could also, of course, try to limit that by parceling out specific parts of the IP, but depending upon how popular Amazon's part becomes, it could end up not mattering in the end. Now, there also, of course, comes the big thing. What exactly is being licensed out here? So, GW's biggest sellers, their front boys, are of course the Space Marines, the Ultramarines to be specific. They are the big, shiny guys that always get new models, that always get new stuff, that are always on the front end of the codex, right? If they give Amazon Space Marines, then Amazon will have control over that golden boy as well. If they were smart and gave them something relatively minor to begin with, like Imperial Guard story, for example, then they would be able to head that off at the pass. This would be the clever solution. Give Amazon Imperial Guards. Give Amazon Orcs, Tyranids, a little bit of chaos here and there. Give them a good, solid slice of 40k, but do not give them the best of 40k. Don't give them the cream of the crop, in essence, which would allow them to continue to remain in control over the majority valuable part of the IP and retain a stick with which to beat Amazon in the future. That would be the clever part. I don't know if they did that, because there is also a mention in this article here that they would also have future rights to Warhammer Fantasy. I believe they mentioned... one of them here somewhere? Film and television. Amazon also has the option to license equivalent rights in Warhammer Fantasy Universe following the release of initial Warhammer 40k film or television show. This too, by the way, is a bit interesting. Amazon also has the option to license equivalent rights in the Warhammer Fantasy Universe. Now, equivalent rights is an interesting term, because that could mean equivalent, as in, we have allowed you to license out slices of 40k. We are now going to allow you to license out slices of Warhammer Fantasy. Or it could mean you have the license to produce Warhammer 40k entertainment, and now you might have the license to produce Warhammer entertainment. Depends on how large those equivalent rights are. But the fact that they're already going like, Amazon... Please, Warhammer Fantasy 2. It comes across a little bit as desperate pleady ex-girlfriend, you know? Which is why I'm wondering exactly how many of the keys to the kingdoms GW has signed over here. I'm worried about that. I am legit worried about that. Very worried about that, in fact. Now, the sheer amount of time spent, though, is kind of like an opposite of this, I guess. The fact that it took them so long to reach an agreement. It's difficult to say whether or not this was Amazon being greedy or if it was GW being protectionist. I'm almost a little bit tempted to suggest that the Henry Cavill starring Voltron thing as well might have been a bit of a maneuver in all of this here. Because if we look at this from Amazon's point of view, right? Let's assume that I'm correct. And Amazon is basically looking at Rings of Power and like, oh shit, that didn't work out. Disney isn't doing particularly well with Star Wars. All of these established IPs aren't doing very well. Hasbro is farming out all of their IPs now. They've just given up on creating entertainment for their own IPs. Maybe they go, well, okay, what is the next big thing? All of this old stuff is getting overrun, or it has spoiled fans. What train can we get on? What hype train can we get on before it leaves the station? Well, what about this little British entity? Games Workshop, Warhammer 40k. What about that? That seems to have an awful lot of potential. What if we get on that bandwagon? We might even be able to throw our weight around. Okay. So we are going to create our Star Wars. In which case, they might be willing to play a little bit dirty, like, oh, I don't know, for example, forming their own bonds with the guy who basically created this whole project, the guy who has full command over the fans here, the guy who, if this deal falls flat on its face, could very easily look over at GW and go like, oh, I'm sorry, everyone, GW wouldn't play ball, so... Am I being cynical? I might be, but, again, if Amazon views 40K as a valuable IP, as I think they do, I wouldn't put it past them to play a little bit, little mean, little dodgy here and there, you know? I mean, a brief interlude as well, just to clear up Superchat Silux on Doppelganger. I am hopeful and terrified. That's more or less my feeling on as well. Vulture 1066, can we Norwegians claim cultural app from Disney? Cultural app appropriation? Oh, definitely, in some regards. Wait, were they the ones doing the dragon thingy? Reality backhand, unlike Magnus, Cavill did nothing wrong. Bantev Fund. Mr. Twisted Frenzy, I don't know who I'm more pissed off at this point, GW or Amazon. There are many things I'd love to see done to them for this, but I'll summarize it and say, grant them all the Emperor's mercy. And how's relearning EU4 going? Need a coach. Talker. It's going pretty well. I think I'm getting get the general grasp of it back again. Let me take that down. Talker. Right, so... to pivot this over into the next stage of the discussion here, which is the quality of a potential show. Now, we're going to watch the Secret Level short, which came out today. It'll probably get me copyright claim, but as long as it doesn't get me copyright struck, which seems unlikely, it should be fine. I'm just going to turn off the volume, that way they can't claim that I'm, giving it up as a alternative to their stuff or whatever, right? So, we're going to look at that a little bit later, and we're going to see if there's anything weird in there, if there's anything that might suggest a little bit of the agenda sneaking in again, who knows? Because there are elements to think about here. Wokeism right now is not doing very well. In fact, wokeism right now is doing kind of terribly, honestly. It's not dead, of course, but it is definitely dying. 2024 will probably be remembered as the year that wokeism finally began to properly die out and begin to disappear. Which means that a show that's going to start production in 2 years from now might be out of the wokest cultural narrative at that point. It is possible. Again, they've got the agreement right now. It doesn't appear as if they've managed to arrive at an agreement on what they were writing, because that is what I heard, that they were trying to write scripts to pitch, first and foremost, and these script pitch all failed. And now they've arrived at basically the licensing agreement, so they might be starting all over again on the writing. If that's the case, they are going to start in the next year, basically, after the majority decline of wokeism. There is therefore a chance that the people hired to write it will understand that this is not the era to push their agenda anymore, and will actually write a 40K story. Conceivable. And seeing as this won't actually arrive until 3, 4, 5 years in the future, when hopefully a lot of this will begin settling down again, we might receive a free of woke show. Now, this depends on how optimistic we are about the death of wokeism, because 2024 has been a remarkably anti-woke year overall. Perhaps we are celebrating too early, and nothing is ever so dangerous as a cornered animal, after all. It is entirely possible that we might even see a resurgence under Donald Trump. They might very well use him as a figurehead of everything that is wrong in the world and as an icon to rally against. As, well, in essence, that is what we did. We rallied against wokeism as we identified it as an overarching enemy. If the left can manage to do something similar against Trump, they might not be completely screwed over just yet, but I find it somewhat dubious for the simple fact that the wokeist narrative now is growing weaker and weaker. More and more of the common man is rejecting their ideas and are becoming very aware of what it means. Woke as a word has now become a negative thing. It has bad connotations. And when a game is marked with it, it near or universally fails massively. So it would require something rather specific, rather remarkable for them to rally from all of this, which I don't see happening right now, but who knows, right? It could happen. There is also, of course, the possibility for something pseudo-woke. Something not woke enough to be reacted against, but woke enough to be embraced by the woke. A wonderful example of that is Arcane, the animated series from League of Legends. Now, Riot Games is a very progressive studio. Incredibly progressive studio. And they created Arcane as a very fascinating piece of entertainment, where there are definitively elements of wokeism in it, absolutely unquestionably. It's a very diverse story. It has 2 female main characters, of course. They have been somewhat de-male gazified, especially in the case of Vi, but at the same time, they've also got more than enough of actual goodness to make up for it. Jinx is an awesome, fun character. Our wannabe mage character that is a surprisingly attractive female for the current year. What was your name again? I don't know, spooky dude with the weird eye. He was a fairly intriguing villain, actually, as he had some real reasons for what he was doing beyond, simple, just evil, crimey nonsense. He was, in essence, a freedom fighter, at least in his own opinion, that was forced to commit vile acts for a greater good. I like it. Now, Jinx is more of just a sheer, unadulterated, batshit insane I'm the Joker character, and I loathe the ending, as it's very clear that Arcane Season 2 was Riot looking at the budget for this and the production time and going, this will never be profitable. We need to write this off. We need to get this out the door and move on to something else with more hype behind it, because the ending is basically everyone's forgiven. No sins are really ever permanent, etc. This chick, how many people does she violently murder? How much did she destroy? How much did she upend? And it's heavily hinted at the end that she somehow survives the bullshit that should obviously kill her, and Vi is like, oh, you'll always be my sister. No matter what a genocidal maniac you will forever be, I'll just kind of forgive you. The redemption arc. Hell, the redemption arc. It's not a redemption arc. It is redemption skip. It's you're redeemed now. Here you go. I fucking hate that. I really do. But the Arcane might then provide a blueprint of sorts for doing something that has just a little bit of progressive in it, enough for it to be noticeable, for you to taste it on your tongue, but not enough for you to actually object to it. And then that becomes the argument, see, the go woke, go broke doesn't actually mean anything. We are now going to enter into the age of the media literacy again. See, this is one major advantage the left had over the right for a very, very long time. The left was able to claim things, and unfortunately the right is still far too resistant to do the same. Which meant that a left-wing YouTuber would look at a movie and go, right, I'm going to put on my academic glasses here, and I'm going to determine that this is making the left-wing argument. This piece of entertainment, much and universally beloved, is actually an anti-capitalist story. Thus, it is my story. It is my property now. Star Wars is anti-capitalist, blah, blah, blah. which is a whole narrative right now. And the right hasn't been able to do that with the slight exception of Starship Troopers, I guess, and to an extent Warhammer 40k, but we less claimed that and inhabited it long before it actually became popular. So a narrative could very easily be grown out of the idea that you have things that are good enough, but also progressive enough to be plausibly claimed by the left. That is, of course, another interesting example of that is Space Marine 2. Now, this was an interesting one, because Space Marine 2 very clearly kind of laid itself up to try and follow that idea, but at the core, it is simply just a great third-person shooter, faithful to the universe, and the only real nod towards anything even vaguely progressivist is that you have a remarkably diverse squad, which, again, it's so minor that most of us will just shrug and get on with our day, like, oh yeah, sure, why not? And in this case, it kind of failed its slight left-wing dog whistle. It might not even have been necessarily a intended one, mind you, because the left then saw it and started attacking it. Why would I want to play a space fascist? Why would I want to play the evil space Nazis? The Imperium is a bunch of fascists, etc., etc. Okay, well, thank you. That is the reaction I hope you will continue to have. I hope you will continue to reject subtlety and act as if you are still the cultural hegemon, as those who dictate morality to others, because, well, allow me to keep taking shots at you. I don't want you to be subtle. I don't want you to try and fly beneath the radar. I don't want you to try and convince the normie masses that you are no longer a threat. I want you to be honest. So please, keep doing it. That would be ideal. Thank you very much. That would be my, one idea for how they could begin a little bit of a cultural resurgence here. Another one might be that, Trump just fucks up enormously. That's an alternative. If he literally just does incredibly poorly, that would open a pretty large window, but I'm sort of kind of hoping that he learned his lesson after the first 4 years in office, and I am very, 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 very optimistic about the Doge initiative. Well, optimistic. I am very happy with the idea of it, even if I am somewhat skeptical as to whether or not its lofty ideals can actually be translated into effective action, rather than being buried beneath a mountain of paperwork. So, we'll see. There is also, of course, the question of whether or not any of this will become relevant. As I talked about that as well. As we're now talking about a timeline for quite a few years here, the spectre of the Chinky Winkies emerges yet again. If I am indeed correct that we are going to see a major appearance of Chinese entertainment and culture cooing out the West in the next 5 to 10 years, we've got a very narrow window for the modern-day entertainment of the left to unfuck itself before it becomes outcompeted by China. This might also be the interesting twist here. Let's say that Space Marine 2 is released, right? It comes out, Space Marine 2, the Space Marine TV show comes out. It's released, and it's good. It is faithful to the 40k universe. But by that time, we've arrived at a situation where this is actually the norm, where Marvel rivals, where attractive characters from Asia is the norm, in a situation where the Chinese market has invaded the Western market to the point that we view the Western market like we used to view EA, and still do to an extent. See, Electronic Arts may be an intriguing little warning of the future here. Electronic Arts was the most hated company in video gaming for, 5-10 years or something. It was viewed as literal Satan, and still is to a degree, despite EA hasn't actually done anything particularly egregiously wrong for a while now. EA has largely been able to keep its nose clean, and yet its reputation remains. So even if Western entertainment actually does get its act together, that is not necessarily a guarantee for it being able to regain its previously lost momentum, particularly in the face of a massive and ascendant, really in this case, rival. That will be a big one. Now, 40K, I feel as if, well, a few years ago I would have said that 40K would have been immune to the influence of the left wing as well, but that was proven thoroughly incorrect, wasn't it? As I was about to say, 40K might be very resistant to this, as the primary selling point of the Chinese market is waifus, hot characters, good character design. It's not really going to fly with the Space Marines, now is it? Imperial Guard, on the other hand... Yeah, definitely, probably, likely, even. Dungeon Keeper 2 for Bullfrog? Dungeon Keeper... God, I did play Dungeon Keeper 2 ages ago. Thank you for the membership again, Vulture 1066, by the way. Dungeon Keeper 2. Now, there's an old game. There is a ridiculously old game. With a lot of hype behind it when it first came out, too, but... we are wandering rapidly off track again. I have this example my brain keeps bringing... yes. There we go. That was the one I was going to bring up. You know what? I haven't actually brought this up in a while. I'm almost a little bit proud of myself for not having overused this as much, but we're back to overusing it now. The X-Men 97 as another example of the arcane question, where you have a show... which was heading in some potentially very wokist directions that were cut off at the knees essentially by the people producing it, that reined in the worst of our big buff gay man's excesses. And this, of course, can also be seen in Inside Out 2 and its massive box office success, as this was a movie that largely became a success because of Disney's limitations placed upon it, shall we say, as more and more rumors have come out suggesting that the story that they originally created was, well, you know, more focused on romances between a pair of underage girls rather than on the having fun with dumb little colorful characters thing. There was also, what was it? There we are, yes. So this one is one I am rather intrigued with. So, The Brave and the Bold. So this is a upcoming, I believe, it's live action, right? Is it? Reasonably Balanced Sun, yep. Righty. Is it? I don't even actually know. These are no Warner Brothers. Yeah, no mention of a animation studio. So I believe... Is it? I'm trying to find if it mentions anything specific. Yeah, I think it is. Batman Films had a new DC continuity. Yep, okay. So, this is a very interesting thing. Simply titled Chapter 1, Gods and Monsters. This new era of DC films will focus on re-establishing the DC universe with new interpretations of their iconic characters. Immediately, the hackles rise on the back of my neck, or my throat, or whatever there. Reimagining. But the title, The Brave and the Bold. Now, The Brave and the Bold... You know, I should have brought this up in advance, but I wasn't sure exactly where my rambles would take me covering this topic. The Brave and the Bold, there we go. There's a cartoon show with the same name. The cartoon show is a love letter to Silver Age comics, straight up. It is old school Batman. This isn't the dark and broody Batman at all. It has virtually nothing to do with the dark and broody Batman, except for one singular episode, which brings about a bit more of an intense Batman, but beyond that, it is all Silver Age comic awesome-ass nonsense, with loads and loads of little guest characters. You know, you've got Black Canary in there, you've got the Joker, obviously, you've got Music Master, you've got Wildcat, all of this cool stuff, right? Oh, hello there. Reverend Norse, thank you very much for the 1,000 Swedish kroners, thank you. Ventru, I hate that I still hope this will be good. I know Amazon is going to Rings of Power this, but I can't help but hope. It's Cavill and 40k. Gods damn it, is the promise of such glory, yet the threat of horror beyond imagining. The wait is going to kill me. It might. It might. It actually, unironically, genuinely might. Right, I'll add that to the mail Ventru, as we are also doing the little bid war that kicked off the other day here, when people decided that they wished to argue over what clan to play in Vampire the Masquerade, which we will be doing this December, by the way. So, the reason why I'm bringing this up, the reason why my wondering has brought me here all the way from 40k, is that I actually quite like the idea of this turn. Now, we know nothing about the Brave and the Bold. Maybe it's going to be the old brooding Batman. Like, what's the thing they're currently doing? The Brickman? What is it? Absolute. That was the dumbass name. Absolute Batman. So, God, my sidetrack is having a sidetrack. So, they announced a reimagining of several major DC characters. This were to be the absolute characters. But you have Absolute Batman, whom I affectionately refer to as Brickman, because look at the motherfucker. It's like, this is my bat now. It's a brick. And apparently he uses construction equipment as weapons. His batarang is just a brick. It is just a brick that he hurls at his enemies. And to be fair, that would be pretty effective. You've got Absolute Superman, the dark, brooding Superman, like, And I believe in this one, too, he doesn't have the Kents anymore, which is one of those, like, really? You're going to do Superman without the Kents? Who decides his moral compass, then? Is he just going to be inherently good? Because that's kind of boring. Or is he going to be good, but in the brooding way, like, oh, I didn't want to help you, but my inherently good nature forced me. Tsundere Batman? Superman. I'm not sure I want Tsundere Batman. Or Absolute Wonder Woman, who's riding a dead horse here because she was raised in hell. You can fucking cut yourself on some of this edge. You really unironically can. Like, Jesus Christ. Oy. But anyways, this was the direction that DC appeared to be pivoting towards. Yet more dark and broody, boring bullshit. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. And yet now, of course, the new upcoming Superman movie, I actually kind of like the look of it. Can I find the new Superman movie? Can I find a little bit of the behind the scenes of it? Is that the one? No, that's a Legacy. Was that the one? No. Damn it, I can't find any like good examples of it. Alright, well, we'll just bring up the one that everybody has seen before. That one right there. That one. The suit. I quite like it. I quite like it. There's some weird design details here, like the stripes the stripes do him no favors. It unironically makes him look fat. Like the stripes are not a good idea. The like little like weird like side stripes there, like it makes him look, I don't know, like plasticky, like artificial, like broader than he should be, and not in a flattering sense, more like fat sense. It's the stripes be a bad idea, yo. The stripes need to go. The stripes are dumb. But everything else, it's a clean, clear, crisp Superman costume. This looks like good guy Superman. This looks like the, my mom made this for me costume, right? And I am so hopeful that will be it. Because what we what we need right now is that we need hopeful heroes again. We need to go back to the Silver Age of comics. We need optimistic characters. We need Clark Kent and Bruce Wayne. We need the moral compass back. We don't need the brooding characters shot in that awful filter. Steel, there you go. Shot in that absolutely terrible current year filter they do, where everything looks cold and dark and sterile. Like you're sitting there in the movie theater and you feel a fucking chill creep up the back of your neck. Like even the fire looks cold. We do not need more of this. We need the anti-this, the hard anti-this. And almost all of this was done in editing too. That's the worst part. If you actually see his steel... let's see if I can find a picture of it. If you actually see his actual costume, it's way brighter than this. Like, it's a lot brighter than this. Like, there you go. Like, it's still dark. It is still way too dark, particularly in comparison to this. But you can see it is significantly lighter than the one you see in the actual movie. Like, they darken it up even worse. And even that, this is bad. Like, you can barely even see the yellow on this. It's more like beige or something. Awful, awful, awful design. Awful design. And if we manage to return to this, the brave and the bold, and what I find interesting too is it's a sense on the father and son dynamic of Batman and Robin. And by Robin, we mean Damian Wayne here, the asshole Robin, the dickhole Robin, the why can't I just kill criminals for shits and giggles Robin. You know what? I'm intrigued. I am very intrigued. Are you going to give us a positive parental figure? In the modern age? A dad Batman trying to raise his rebellious son right? Trying to teach him moral lessons on how to behave? Holy shit. That would be something. Maybe I am hoping for way too much here. It is entirely possible, but I like where they're potentially going with this. I love the potential idea of where they're going with this. Whether or not they'll actually end up there, that's the question. And the fact that they are doing this as a reboot and a reimagining, it suggests to me that they've looked at the boring, bland nonsense and going, okay, screw this. We've got the old characters. Let's do the good old characters. Let's actually do Batman and Superman again for goddamn once. And if this does happen, I feel like this could actually lead to that resurgence in the West that we were talking about. If we actually start getting this again, the things that, made the things popular in the first place, perhaps we still have a chance at a resurgence before China swallows us whole. And in that environment, a 40K TV show could do incredibly well. In an environment that embraces the old school awesomeness, that embraces the Silver Age in essence. And, oh boy, I'm getting a little bit too excited, really, because we don't know if any of this will actually happen yet. But that could be an excellent opportunity to not only catapult 40k into fame, but to catapult it into fame correctly, based on the right ideas and the right ideals, the healthy ones, rather than the crazy ones. It could also, mind you, set a lot of things up for failure. Okay, here's the other idea. Perhaps DC, after having been chasing raggedly and out of breath after Marvel for the last 5 to 10 years, finally stopped. We've been trying to copy Marvel, but poorly, for 10 years. It ain't doing us any favors. It ain't working. What are we gonna do? What isn't Marvel doing? Going back to their old school comics and giving good old fashioned awesome interpretations of the characters as they should be, as inspirations and moral icons? Well, the winds of politics do appear to be changing. How about we try that? It might actually be DC in the lead yet again, with Marvel and everybody else trying to catch up. Yeah, I would really like that, because DC is like my favorite underdog, okay? It's the kicked and abused little puppy by the side of the road that I really want to see succeed. I want DC to do better than merely be rip-off inferior Marvel. I want DC to shine, because there's so much cool in there that I really want to see, but again, we are getting rather speculatory and optimistic here. To finally bring this all the way on back to 40k again, 40k is in so many ways the quintessential old school setting, because it has retained most of its old school vibes, with the occasional noticeable exception. The occasional noticeable exception. There we are. 404 not found, you piece of shit. Right, I'll have to do it manually then. Take a screenshot. And there we are, our notable exception. So if it managed to arrive at the same time as a return to form for DC, it could do very well. Or, here's the alternative. Let's finally talk about the elephant in the room again. The quality of a Warhammer 40k television show. Now again, we're going to watch The Secret Level in a moment here now to give us a few pointers as to where this might be heading, but theoretically, if you simply do a good 40k story, which doesn't need to be particularly complicated, that's the beauty of it. Really, drop a few space marines down on the planet, kill some aliens for the Emperor, there you go. You're done, you're finished. People would applaud. Or do a band of Imperial Guardsmen. Again, Commissar Cyphus Kane. Cavill would look fucking amazing as Kane. He would look, so good. He would look beyond amazing as Cyphus Kane. Beyond amazing. And don't tell me you don't picture Cyphus Kane cocky little smirk on Henry Cavill's face with that peak cap. It would be amazing. It would be so good. And it could be done with relatively little budget as well. Not that it's really going to, inconvenience Amazon, but it could be done easily and effectively. Now, whether they would, of course, need some kind of IP for it, but a simple Band of Brothers-style story, too, would do well. Honestly, it is going to be a challenge to mess up 40k so long as they just do 40k. It's not hard to do a 40k story. The problem... See, I keep saying that, but my brain swiftly reminds me of reality on occasion. Because Ultramarines, it is kind of what I just mentioned. It is kind of just drop a bunch of Space Marines on a planet and watch them do stuff thing. And it was bad. It was not good. It was not good. But I blame this on 3 factors. 1, it was shot in that boring, bland, dark style. 2, the pacing was unbelievably awful. And 3, it was written by one of the Black Library authors, which is probably why the pacing was unbelievably awful, because it is very different to write a book to writing a screenplay. A fact that Games Workshop as a whole stubbornly refuses to realize. Seriously, if you want a good Amazon 40K show, you need to keep the Black Library authors as far fucking away from this as humanly possible. You need to bar them from entrance to any Amazon facilities for the duration of filming, okay? Just no, they don't do it. They've tried so many times, they have failed every single one. Don't let them, god damn it. But it should be easy. It should be easy. Unless, of course, they start introducing the message again. And if we get a 40K TV show with the message, if we get Rings of Power, but in 4 years from now, just as, like, DC has revolutionized everything with a classic interpretation of Batman in The Brave and the Bold, with a strong fatherhood story, with positive morality, oh god, It could be a flop bigger than The Lord of the Rings. It could be buried beyond belief. It could be a shot so devastating that as to actually kind of hurt GW even, just for having given out the license to such a company. It could be catastrophic. But we are making a lot of assumptions there. A lot of assumptions. Okay, before we move on to the secret level 1, which I want to look at now, let me catch up with the super chats before we do that. Let me just move that over there for a second. That'll make it all easier. Dante, C-3PO have a red arm in the new movies because George Lucas had the right to the original design. Technically, he's a new character with the red arm. That's beautiful. I love it. I mean, hey, legalistically, I'm sure that's correct. Daniel Zartek, did you see Bezos starting his worm tongue arch, Talker? I did not. What is Bezos doing? Is Bezos going to be like, I was always on your side now, guys? Believe me? I wouldn't be surprised, honestly, because we're probably going to see that a lot. Let me see, Jeff Bezos. Has there been any recent news about the Bezosi? Okay. Well, there's the one I could find immediately was this here. So Jeff is meeting with the Trumphalophagus. Willing to work with Trump to remove regulatory barriers, I see. Ah. Jeff Bezos praises Trump and Musk. Yeah. Yeah, I'm seeing it a little bit now. But at the same time... So he's basically looking at Musk and probably getting a little bit of penis envy, like, but am I not supposed to be important too? It's like, nah, Jeff, nah, you're not important anymore. Go home, Jeff. And he's trying to get in with the Don. I mean, this is my greatest worry for the Trump presidency, right? Because the previous term, He spent 4 years basically achieving very little on a large-scale regulatory basis because he listened to too many people. There were too many maleficent entities that managed to sidle on up to him and begin tonguing his ear holes with all manners of nonsense. The lizard man himself, oh God, what's his name again? Owner of Facebook, that guy, you know, the non-human guy. He himself was like, oh, Trump, you're so great, you're so awesome, Trump. I would never act against you. I would never censor you. I was forced to, Trump. I am your friend. All of these friends then swiftly turned around and stabbed him in the back as hard as they could. I am worried that he will fall for this again. I'm hoping he's learned his lesson. I'm hoping he'll be a lot more cynical this time around. But Trump is also nothing if not a bit of an ego. And when people are lining up to tongue his ass, I'm not going to put it past him to enjoy it, shall we say. Marksman of 117B, 11th hour save or gate to damnation? That is the question, isn't it? Volta 1066, play the DK2 intro, please. I can't do that. I think I'm going to copyright strike anyways. But it's like a terrible resolution. It's just YouTube. Shadow Walker's been a member for 2 months. Thank you very much, sir. Hello, Arch. Hope you are doing good. May Biggie bless Cavill, and we get a good 40k show. Wish it was animated over live action, though. Well, we don't know for sure. It won't be animated yet, mind you. Because having Henry Cavill in it does not guarantee live action. It could easily be Henry Cavill being given the fanciest VTuber model anyone has ever received, and basically being a CGI character that he voices that looks like him. Or he could simply just voice another character. Or they could go the Marvel Iron Man route with Hulk and stuff and just have like CGI characters in the live action, so it could be a little bit of both, mayhaps. Lancelot 652, Dad Bod Superman. Exactly. He feels like Fat Thor. That's why I hate it so much. Daniel Zartak, Super Dev, the man of burgers. Talker, the man of burgers. Boo, Christopher Reeves is the best Superman. You're probably right there. Volta 1066, we need normal men. We do. We just all need to be normal. It's that simple. We don't need to, now that the left is defeated, we don't then immediately need to rush on over to the religious right and do everything they want us to do. No, we just need to chill out, calm down, and be normal men. That's all. That's all we need. Opokoy, hey Arch, do you think the modern Russian intelligence is the result of marriages between half-siblings of the NTR character Lavrentia Beria after World War II? Well, it does include NTR, so I'm leaning towards favoring it, yes. Get him at YouTube. Why do you keep crashing, you little dumbass thing? Now you force me to scroll all the time, don't you? And I don't like it. Boog, you should do a watch-along of Ultramarines. Maybe I should. Daniel Zartax, insert, will this help us sell burgers? Burgers meme for Talker. Look up Bezos talking about how he's going to convince Trump the media isn't the enemy. Wormtongue arc is on for real. It might. Dracus Luthers, hi Arch, I'm sure I'd like to see your beloved slug waifu in these newfangled Ching Chong games. Don't worry, I'm sure they'll provide for you. Perhaps they will. Sujard, did you see Trump's monologue about internet censorship, free speech, and how it forced social media to provide exact reasons for being silenced, etc.? I did. In fact, I believe that clip is from like 2016 or something, the one you're talking about, the Internet Bill of Rights one. Yeah, that's actually fairly old, but I hope he sticks with it. I mean, again, like, why didn't he do it the first time around then? But I hope he sticks with it, because we need an Internet Bill of Rights desperately before the next wave of censorious shits take over and get in control. And Nolly twice for $20. Same one or two different ones? Two different ones. Silent Glimmer. I don't trust any of them. I'm with Razor. The Chinese sneak them some money to incentivize the message and let your competition undo itself. Maybe even buy them from under American noses. Not falling for it. Yes. Now that is another there. That is another one as well. There are quite a lot of fairly reasonable looking suggestions that China may at the very least in part have been responsible for the push of ESG, DEI and wokeism in the West. Simply because they looked at it and went, hold on, This undermines like everything the West likes. In fact, it's based on the philosophy of a man who explicitly stated that he wished to undermine Western values and replace them with his own. Maybe we should push this. Either it'll succeed, in which case the West will be closer to China than ever, or it will fail, in which case we've kneecapped Western entertainment and all of our competitors. It is incidentally the same reason why China signed the Paris Climate Accord all those years ago, because the Paris Climate Accord committed China to increasing their coal mining and energy production, and committed their greatest competitor, America, to decreasing theirs. It's like literally, China was given everything they could possibly want on a silver platter. They had America intentionally cripple itself for China's benefit, and the best part is, this was then lauded as a victory. Like, oh hey, look, we made China sign. Wow, what an achievement. Yeah, you got China to agree to fuck you in the arse. I mean, it's something, I suppose, but not necessarily a lot. Starlight Glimmer, says Nolly again. Ever since Adam something video on the subject, I've been thinking, if Space Marines, just Space Marines, showed up in orbit and paid us a visit, how bad would it really be? Or Gilliman even. Thoughts? Well, we're a human civilization, so we would probably be left mostly alone. They would instill an imperial governor, of course, like, okay, you've got to abide by imperial law now, you know, we've got our rules. They might react poorly to our large language models, but I'm not sure. Honestly, we'd kind of be like a lost tech world for them. If they show up here, they'd probably coddle us a fair bit, at least until the Mechanicus arrives, start picking apart our computers, because we're either going to be viewed as a massive ball of tech heresy and be bombed from orbit, or we're going to be viewed as the single largest repository of archotech ever discovered. 1 out of 2. So, it's extermination or a relatively cushy future. Right, so let's have a look at this secret level thing then, shall we? Let's see. Minimize that. Bring up a video tray. Get the Amazon thingy-bob up and running. Make sure desktop is muted. Yes, it is. And there we go. Right. Let's have a look at this thing then. I'm going to have it muted for you to see if I can fly underneath the radar of copyright. I doubt it. It's probably going to, the video is probably going to get copyright claimed, but fuck if I care. It should be well within the striking limits, too. I just don't want them to be able to argue that I'm, competing with their market or anything silly like that. So if you have your own version of the show, do feel free to bring it up and watch along as well, as we can have a look at this. As this will probably give us a decent indicator of whether or not there's going to be anything weird going on with the upcoming animated, the upcoming Amazon show, if they're planning any nonsense with it. Alright, it's 20 minutes long, damn. That's quite a bit. Already there's much dialogue, even music is kinda. Subtitles on? Shouldn't be, no. No, I'm not gonna turn on subtitles. Again, I'm not gonna give Amazon the excuse. So we're just gonna look at it, basically. Let's see here. MGE Studios, all this good stuff. We're probably going to skip around a little bit, again, just to deny any accusations. Secret level. Oh. Let me turn off the subtitle thingies. Close that for a second. Subtitles. No subtitles. I am probably going to do it at 2 times speed, yes. That's a good idea, chat. How do I even... I never use this damn Amazon thing. Because it is dumb. And I hate it. A lot. There we go. Right. Is there hard-coded subtitles in this dumbass thing? There. No subtitles. Still subtitles. What the fuck is wrong with this goddamn player thingy? Help me. It's hard-coded into my damn copy, isn't it? Little piece of shit, Amazon. I hate you. I hate you. I hate you a lot. There. There. Well, it's very dark. We have a kid. Interesting. So, we are given a young child, which immediately my mind thinks Titus, because this is supposed to be centered around Titus, right? And the audio goes, a child that has never known fear, what could such a soul be capable of? Immediately, I am reminded a little bit of that article we read a couple of, a month or so ago, a couple of weeks ago, where they're like, the Space Marines aren't supposed to be the good guys. The Space Marines are brainwashed fascists and evil. They commit countless genocides and are just bad people. And we start with, what could such a child be capable of? Horrible deeds. Immediately, I feel like we're framing this in a somewhat negative fashion. Hello, Lum. Well, I'm not surprised. That is some fucking beautiful. God damn. I'm sorry. I am those candles. Wow. I am. Never mind the giant screen or the CGI faces. All of that is utterly irrelevant. The candles. Holy shit. Holy shit, I don't care about who you are. The candles! Okay, I know this probably makes no sense to you, but as somebody who used to do 3D modeling and animation stuff, getting them to look like that, getting the wax to look like that is impressive as shit. Holy Christ. The fire effects too are pretty on point. They're a little dirgy a little bit here and there, but that's pretty impressive. Titus. Oh. Right, diverse space marines, of course. Did anyone expect anything different? Obviously not. And I will stress as well, bear you in mind, Ultramar, of course, recruits from all the worlds of Ultramar, Ultramarines, more correctly. They recruit from all the worlds of Ultramar. So there would absolutely be black and brown and Asian-looking Ultramarines. It's still the current year, and I still see the patterns. That, too, is quite pretty. Right. That was a Slaneshi rune, wasn't it? Close enough for government work. Oh, hey! That's a cool little nod to the video game. That's a really cool little nod to the video game, too, by the way. The whole, like, heads-up display there. That's neat. I like that. We've got Chaos Cultists. And we are dragging something. We are dragging a casket. A casket with some sort of energy grid? Okay, so we're not barely dragging a body here. We're dragging something... Probably, I would venture psychic. I would guess psychic. Because that's an awful lot of wires. That kind of reminds me of the librarian's hood right there. And it would also make a little bit of sense why you would carry it in a massive coffin if you are visiting a chaos-controlled world as well. Oh, hold on there. Definitely Psyker. There you go. There's the icon right there. Psyker. Definitely Psyker. The heretics have bikes. Ah, gunfire. Okay, that was pretty awesome. That was okay. We're gonna need to watch some of this in 1x speed. That was pretty cool. That was pretty cool. Okay. They're doing pretty well so far. That was excellent. You're riding a bike, strolling towards them. You ram the Space Marine with your bike. The Space Marine doesn't flinch. He just whee. That was pretty great. That was pretty great. Ah. Okay. No. We gotta watch that in 1 speed as well. That is pretty cool. Oh, that is pretty great. That is pretty great. Oh. Yes. Heavy, like, slapping movements, like he's a big, murdering machine automaton. That fucking headbutt. You dented my helmet. Okay. Alright, that was pretty awesome. Right, I am I'm liking this so far. They've got the action down pat there. This is reminding me a lot about, what was his name? The Finnish guy who did Astartes. Simo something? This is reminding me a lot of his work. In fact, I would be sure this was him if it weren't for the fact that he was no longer at GW. I mean, he might have done this before he left, I guess. It's entirely possible, because something of this animation quality, of this fidelity, this shit, I guarantee you, this stuff took... Hold on there. I guarantee you, this took weeks, if not months, to render. Stuff of this quality, this level, this animation, etc., this takes forever to render. They must have put this on a server farm and just had it chugging for months. So, it is his works, is Loka? Ah, yeah, I figured. You know, it looks a lot like his style. It looks a lot like his style. And the worst part is then, again, he's not working there anymore. That's the worst part. He's not working for GW anymore. They had this, and they didn't value this enough to keep him around, which is a fucking shame. But yeah, the purity seals are burning up. I think we are about to get a pretty good idea of why they brought the Psyker, as that is indicator of something pretty gnarly up ahead. Blood running up from the ground is also pretty unusual, yeah. We're getting flashbacks of, I don't know, I think the kid from the opening. Giant hole! Whip! Just jumps into the giant hole. Oh, and now we're walking on the... Ah, yes. Yeah. If the Chaos Heretics weren't a dead giveaway, I'm pretty sure we're dealing with some warp fuckery here. Another excellent little scene. Like, play that one in normal speed as well. Excellent use of lighting. Excellent use of lighting. What are those, Zongors? I mean, I'm feeling Zongors, but no Zinchian marking. And it could also just be the lighting and the blue thing. That is some beautiful kick-ass visuals. Alright, we've had a little bit of... oh, that's a change of ways. We've had a little bit of Nurgle, we've had a little bit of Zinch. Ah! Yep, a Psyker. Yep, they brought a Psyker. Well, so much for the Psyker. That, however, does not look very Zinchy at all. Oh, gnarly. Damn. And this is why we bring the Psyker for the psychic fuckery, as he's killing them one by one. That's a nice touch, too. The cold on their armor of psychic effect. Okay, that's a kid from the intro. So, did he recruit him, I guess, and made him a Space Marine? Ah, and he's worried that he's turned to chaos. Okay. Ooh. Okay. All right. Mm-hmm. Well, little bit of casualties there, but that's entirely normal. And Titus. So, was that Titus? An orbital strike, mayhaps? What now, then? I guess having it on 2x still wasn't enough, huh? Right. Let's just add in that there. There we are. Bring that up. Pin. There we go. There we go. Okay, I think it's back up now, is it? Is it? Should be. Let me just check. Yep, looks like it. Yep, there we go. Okay. I was thinking that was probably going to happen at some point. It's just the copyright claim thingy. That's all it is. It's nothing more. Don't worry about it. Because this is well within the fair use system. Well within the fair use system. But that doesn't mean that YouTube's automated bots aren't going to kick in and force you to chastise them first. Entirely normal YouTube-y nonsense. That's all. But yes, okay, so overall, this looks pretty excellent, I'd say. Not tempt fate, I guess. We'll close it. It looks fairly excellent. Let's see. I'll look at the rest of it. Titus, yep. Titus. Yes, it was Titus, and he was the one who recruited Titus. Now, they fucked up with the service marks here, because Titus has as many service marks as his mentor, which is retarded, so they messed up on that one. He's got four, yes, he's got 4 long service studs. The same as his mentor. Okay. Fuck up there, Amazon. Fuck up there. I mean, I don't believe that Titus has 4 long service studs either, because that makes him about 200 fucking years old. That seems a bit silly, Willie. It might simply be that Amazon or the creators of Space Marine don't know what long service studs are. Okay. So one thing that I'm a little annoyed by is they begin by referring us to Titus, right? Okay. This child who knows no fear. That's Titus. What could such a child be capable of? I was worried that what they were going for there is, oh, the Space Marines are just mind-washed killing machines, rah, 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 rah. And they kind of do, but they also kind of don't here. They're clearly kind of drawing Titus, I don't know, because his mentor is like, oh my god, I'm worried he'll fall to chaos, which falls in very nicely with Titus's entire like background story and the fall to chaosy nonsense, right? That makes a degree of sense for why they would want to do a story like that with Titus, and how he then also rejects chaos in the end. And then they show a final segment of him back as a child again, like running towards the enemy, like all bloody and stuff. This is kind of what I was talking about with the plausible deniability of progressivism, because I can absolutely see the media literacy crowd looking at this and deciding that it is a critique of 40k and a critique of the Space Marines. Like, look, the Space Marine on his last days, he's feeling guilty that he's brainwashed this child to be a fascist for him, and for nothing, for no reason. I'm getting that sort of vibe from this. I really am, but it also fits in well with his backstory, so I don't know. I don't know. I'm reading too much into it. Feels like a stretch. Kind of. It's like exactly what I was talking about previously. The potential for camouflaging a progressive point in an otherwise innocent-looking exterior. As again, I can see what the argument here is for this is, just Titus, he's not actually falling to chaos. In fact, he's always hated chaos from his earliest days. Like, he cannot be corrupted. He is uncorruptible, in fact, which kind of jives with his story in the games fairly well, but the image of him as a young, bloodied child, and the fact that his mentor is looking at him almost like worried, and the fact that they make his mentor an old, like, bearded man, and there's also the flashbacks to him raising him, kind of like making him into a Space Marine, and the fact that he has this kind of guilty look on his face. Again, I can absolutely see how the media literacy crowd would take this into, oh, he understands now. He's turned this child into a blood-drenched monster who now does nothing but killing. This is how evil 40k is. I don't know. I feel like I might be reading too much into it. And at the same time, I also feel like we didn't read enough into it initially, so I don't know. There is the potential there, but there's definitely nothing strident by any stretch of the imagination. The action looks excellent, but that is largely due to, well, the guy making it and animating it. The guy who is, I'm fairly sure, no longer at GW, so that's a little bit of a double-edged sword, isn't it? It's a success in that this looked really good, and it's a failure in that they managed to chase that guy off from their future products. But on the bright side, it is at least a nice and simple 40k story, so long as we ignore the potential slight implications at the end there. The Space Marines don't have a whole lot of monologue, in fact they've got virtually nothing. The majority of it is simply action. It's Space Marines being Space Marines, murdering squishy bags of blood and spreading them across the camera, before then being faced with something even worse than themselves, an even greater monster, a demon, who... I don't know, it feels a little bit Slaneshi, but, Zinchi, because the statue was definitely Zinch, so the blood and Zian goes, a little bit of Zinch, a little bit of Slanesh, mostly Zanesh, I would say, with the final demon thingy, the whole opening eye thing, creepy DP. Creepy DP. Oh, I should have just done, on Rumble to begin with, because then we could have played the whole thing. That would be nice. That would be nice. That would be kind of nice, yeah. I like it. I like it. The action is very solid. The sound is solid. The episode structure is solid. It does what it needs to do, and it does it quickly. No waffling about, no wasted time. Whether or not they can recreate this, then, is the next question. Because, again, they've lost the guy who did it now. Intriguing. But hey, at least we got one piece of good 40k entertainment out of it. We got Space Marine 2, and we've now got a really cool, 16-minute long Space Marine 2 animation as well. Can't complain too loudly about that, I do suppose. Can't complain too loudly about that at all. Right. Xylox and Doppelganger. If the Space Marines show up, start praying to Chaos. Well, that's an alternative. We could try that. It might turn out as poorly for us as it's done for everyone else who started praying, though. I'm just pointing that out. Skiki for $40. For Talker, have you made Lum Lum play the newest Feet Simulator game yet? No, but I am looking into several Feet games to make Lum Lum play. One of which is an entire feet fetish game called Souls of the Damned. Oh, that is definitely something that Lum Lum will have to play at some point in the not too distant future, I'm sure. Right, what is... I'll just do it like that. Oh, my response. That's gonna be good. That's gonna be very good. Make sure to do your part as well, chat. You too must convince the Lum Lum of the validity of this thing. Sandoom, how long Arch last 40k with all lore knowledge? I don't understand the question. I legitimately don't understand the question. Counter-Structure, apropos vampire, have you looked at or tried the visual novels? I have not. I've heard they're apparently really good, which kind of amazes me. But they've made quite a few of them now, so there must be something to them. Johnson Smith, culture wars are pendulums. They swing back, which can only be stopped if public loses its say. Stop if the public loses its say. Holding it back just adds momentum to the backswing. Yes. And I'm hoping no. See, by and large, I agree. But I do also think that there is enough communicative medium now, because one of the big reasons why the pendulum swings so hard is because the political pendulum was largely determined by the elites. And the elites are usually in office for a very long time. If the people who are determining the swing are in office for 40 years, professional politicians and so on, and educated academia determining what is and is not moral, the reverse will be a younger generation, raised up many, many, many decades thereafter, which is why it usually takes a very long time for the pendulum to swing. Whereas now, the pendulum has swung in a mere 10-odd years, which is remarkably rapid by political standards. So I'm hoping that the ability to speak to more people directly will actually allow us to grab a hold of it and simply shake it and go, no, just be normal. Because the anti-censorship argument, which is at the core of the opposition to wokeism, is precisely as effective against the religious right as it is against the woke left. We simply need to continue making it. That's it. Look, it is his work. And the real Zartax, Bezos got to you too, Talker. Yes, briefly there. Real Zartax, forget Titus, what about their non-stop attempts at making Leandros the good guy? Well, he is the good guy. You know, he did his part. He did what he should, just in a little bit of a dickish roundabout way, you know? And he was made into chaplain for it, proving that he wasn't just a moral busybody once. He continued to be a moral busybody for the entirety of his career as a Space Marine, which, you gotta respect the grind, right? Elsa Sorana. Art, I need to take the black pill along with the rest of us realists. It will give him the armor of contempt he needs to survive, Amazon's crushing of Cavill, and the wokeification of 40k. Well, okay. Woke terms. What in the secret level trailer could be construed as wokist? Right. So we are going to take the least charitable approach here, and we are going to take the media literacy approach. Yes, the media literacy approach. We've got the main character is a black guy. It's like, okay, I wouldn't care. 40k is a diverse universe, unironically, and the Ultramarines recruit from all across Ultramar. It would be weird if they weren't black Ultramarines, so that makes entire sense. Now, we could launch into the whole discussion of where exactly the Space Marines get their skin color from, because technically it shouldn't actually be from their original skin color and birth. See, skin color is irrelevant to a Space Marine. It doesn't matter. They're, what's the gland that determines melanin or whatever again? That thing, whatever it is. Actually, let me just Google it. I have Google right here. I can just check it. Adrenal gland? Melanocytes? Epidermis? Stuff and things. Anyways, the Space Marines change their skin color to fit in with the environment. If they're on a desert world, they will all be heavily bronzed, browned, or even black, depending upon how intense the sun is. If they are on a frozen world, they will all be extremely pale and albino-esque, because they are trying to take up as much of the nourishment from the sun as they can, whereas the inverse is the case on a desert world. To a Space Marine, skin color is largely irrelevant. It is merely another defense mechanism of their skin, which is, well, that's exactly what skin color is. It is your body adapting itself to the environment. It's really actually that simple. And yet, in the modern age, we've turned it into this whole fucking retarded thing. Oh, God. I still remember, I read a particularly retarded article, which was like, the Space Marines are all right. This is clearly because of racism, and the only black chapter is black because they were mutated by the sun's radiation. Like, yes, all black people are black because they are mutated by the sun's radiation. That is literally how that works. That is unironically, straight up how that works. It is our bodies responding to protect ourselves from the sun. Correct. I fucking love that so much. Oh, that was one of like the best moments of wokeism I've ever read. It's beautiful. But anyways, yes. To Space Marine, skin color is irrelevant. So, this guy has been aboard the ship for ages. If anything, he should be an extremely pale shade of black if we're following the actual lore canon. And there's also the argument to be made that Gene Seed in essence turns all of the Space Marines into sort of kind of clones of the Primarch, which is why, for example, you have people that looked a lot like Horus, to the point of the little Horuses in the 30k. Or an Ultramarine will usually take on the facial features of Gilliman. They'll get the same kind of like bone structures and cheekbones, etc., as their body morphs themselves to his DNA, as the Primarch's DNA becomes the dominant feature. This is why all salamanders have the deep blackened coal skin. That is because their glands controlling their skin color are actually buggered after Vulcan's own glands were basically burnt out after hanging out on a ball of rock near the sun for forever on a volcano planet. That's why all of them are black. So you might even have a salamander who is white as a sheet when he's recruited, and the moment he's exposed to sun, his skin will slowly start to darken and blacken until he too looks exactly like all of his brothers. So, this is one of those Space Marines are only what color they are because of authorial intent. That is it. Because they can literally change it to adapt to their environments. It doesn't matter. It is an utter irrelevancy. And the only reason you would go against that is, of course, if you have a narrative to push. Now, this is the thing. It's always hard to determine because we can't get into the brain of the person in question. Perhaps they simply roll the dice like, I want this to look at him. Because he's got like a Morgan Freeman old wise guy style to him, you know? And he does. He unironically does. Or it could have been something forced in. We don't know. We do know that things are forced in. We were told by Disney themselves that they do this for these exact reasons, and we know from the lore that the skin color is utterly irrelevant. So, it's that, but it's one of those things where I really don't actually care about it that much. It's like, so long as we can move away from the overt politicking, I'll mostly just shrug and move on with it. The other thing, then, would only be the representation of Titus as a young boy, knowing no fear, etc., and the whole running towards the enemy covered in blood, with the old man looking on with, like, an expression of worry, of like, horror, of, like, I don't know, slight fear almost in his eyes, as if like, oh my god, what have I done to this young boy, you know? Which also feels like a bit of a stretch to me. It really does. So, all in all, if this is the 40k television show we get, I'll be happy. I will be very, very happy, in fact. If the worst I can do is make very stretched hypothetical complaints, I will be very pleased with it, because everything else is excellent. The cinematography, the pacing, the environments, the action, the animations, it's fantastic. It is well up there and beyond anything that the major companies have produced. The only problem is, again, that they've kind of chased off the guy who did it, which... that's the problem, isn't it? Will they be able to recreate it? Sandu, I meant to say, how long would you, Arch, last in the 40k universe with all of your 40k lore knowledge? I expect not long, because knowledge of chaos is corrosive and corrupting to the soul. Well, but maybe because I understand that is what it is, I would be better able to resist it. I don't know, how long would I last? Honestly, probably not long, no, because all the knowledge of the 40k universe in the world isn't really necessarily going to benefit you a whole lot. Like, you arrive on some random hive world, and you're like, well, I know this is a hive world. What can I do about that knowledge? Frighteningly little. Frighteningly little, honestly, so not very long. The Real Zartax. Isn't a normal Marine bypassing the chain of command and going straight to the Inquisition against the Codex? Torka? Do they do that in there? Do they? Mission objective, apostate relic, Secundus. Oh, Leandros. Of course, you're talking about Leandros, duh. Well, not necessarily, because bear you in mind, there is no chain of command there. Not really. There is no chain of command when it comes to the Inquisition. Like, basically, if you suspect something is wrong, you report it or you become a suspect. Pretty much straight up. Undo. There we go. So, I don't know. I think he's got it fairly safe, Leandros, there. If anything, he might actually be commended for his zeal. Rosalhim, you promised us Dota last year. Still waiting. Did I? I don't remember this. I don't remember this at all. El Serrana Arch, this is just the bait part of the bait and switch. Trust me, it's coming. Very possibly. Very possibly. Real Sartax. Oh yeah, did you see the Rohan anime that just dropped? And that core has been shilling it hard, Talker. I have not seen it, no. I have not. I have not seen it. I'm sure... Wasn't it running just on like, wasn't it running just like in cinemas or something? I'll have to see when I can get a hold of it. I don't know if it actually is running on any streaming services, because I ain't going to the cinema for that shit. No, I don't think I want to. I don't think I want to. I do not think I desire to go to the cinema for that, of all of the things. Let's see, I'm trying to find out if it's running anywhere. Not that I can see, anyways. Elsa Sorana. Also, Arch, when are you going to do the My Little Pony Smasher Pass? Your chat paid that off a while ago. I guess I do need to do that at some point. I don't even know what list of ponies. How do you find list of ponies? List of ponies MLP. List of ponies. Buttershy, God help me. I'll need to try and figure out a way to actually find all of the characters, I guess. Which is going to be a challenge in and of itself. God help me. God help me indeed. Get Boog to do it. Maybe Boog should be made to do it. Maybe indeed. What are you on about, Lum Lum? Create a MLP character tier list. But these aren't all the ponies. There's more ponies than these, Lum Lum, aren't they? Aren't they? It's like, oh god, that's disgusting. No, awful. Okay. I hate you. I don't care. Waifu. Okay. Well, there you go. There is a MLP pony list. Those pictures are fucking tiny. But there we are. I guess we'll have to do the pony smash and pass soon. Okay. Who can I get to do that, I wonder? I'm gonna need a thumbnail for that. I guess I'll put White on it. He's probably got nothing else to do. I'm sure he will be more than happy to do some more ponies. He loves ponies very much. And body name, Boog, got you. God, and in December as well, during Christmas times, you want this? You know, I'm starting to side with the religious right on this. Maybe we should eradicate some of the degeneracy from the world. Just saying. Just saying. Some of the degeneracy might be worth censoring. Perhaps this is the part that is worth censoring. It is difficult to tell, chat. It is hard to know for sure. and yet I am leaning in that direction. Infinite Review, Ghost Frontline 2 is peak. Too bad for my wallet. That is indeed absolutely tragic. But don't worry, I'm sure it'll burn and crash soon. Maybe, possibly. I probably Ghost Frontline 1 for a bit. Didn't get that into it. I hear 2 is apparently a lot better with a lot better graphics and stuff, so I'll probably give it a look just for shits and giggles. Hey, what else could I possibly do with my time? Path of Exiles? Should I play Path of Exiles? I feel like I should, but I also feel like the boat on that has come and gone. It is apparently very good, so that is that. Gacha Games, big gay. Oh, listen. They're not that big gay. They're only a little bit gay. One tiny bit gay. Kerbal Space Program Fund? Oh, God. Kerbal Space Program 2. It would have to be the first one. It would have to be Kerbal Space Program 1, because 2 has abandoned development completely. There was some rumors. There was some rumors a little while ago that there might be somebody sniffing around to buy it out. But I can't see anything more about it. Oh, here it is. Right, so, private division sold to unknown buyer in the wake of Take-Two shuttering 2 of its studios. So, there is a possibility that Kerbal Space Program 2 will continue development. Maybe, but it isn't looking enormously likely. And that's a shame, because it was finally starting to hit its stride. It was finally starting to shape up to something. Like, it was getting there very, very slowly. But it was beginning to look like something, and I would love for it to be something, because the idea of, like, interstellar travel and co-op and all of that sounded really, really cool. But, you know, with the studio basically dead and laid off, yeah. I guess we'll have to wait and see. Sadness. Anyways, I think we've covered most of the relevant stuff that we know so far. To just quickly summarize, the deal with Amazon has been struck. It was struck on, well, the 11th hour, quite literally. They had like 2 more weeks to finish this after they missed their first deadline. They haven't announced anything exactly what they're going to do with it. Henry Cavill is, of course, happy and confident, and, well, he's being paid to be happy and confident, so take that with a pinch of salt. And Games Workshop has signed away a lot of the rights, all of the merchandise, and exclusive TV and movie show rights to Amazon, which that has a lot of worrying potential consequences for GW, as it could very easily mean that they are going to be the tick on Amazon's back as Amazon creates the 40K cinematic universe that could very easily outballoon and outgrow in popularity, at the very least, the actual 40K franchise. Which, not a great thing for GW. I feel like they've promised too much here, but it really depends on how much of their license they licensed away, whether Amazon is going to have free reins, or if they have only been given very specific slices of 40K's IP, which is usually how GW does things. So, we shall wait, and we shall see. And we are going to wait for a very long time, as we are probably not going to see anything from this show for another 3 years, probably, at least. And another, 4 years until we see a release, probably. It's going to be a long time. And I remind you that this... Can I even find anything mentioning this now? God, it's been so fucking long now. Oh yeah, there we go. Right. Remember this from like... I don't know if did this happen in 2022? I thought it happened maybe earlier. But remember, there was supposed to be an Inquisitor TV show starring Gregor Eisenhorn. That was announced by everyone involved. They even hired on like people to do it and stuff on. Like this was a project that just never materialized. We never heard anything more about it. We haven't seen any indication that it's being worked on. No promos, no news, no nothing. And now the GW has apparently signed away the television and movie rights to Amazon. I guess it's dead? I mean, I would have guessed it would have been dead regardless, because we haven't heard anything for like 3 years, but... all I'm saying is, GW has killed a lot of projects in the cradle already, so don't get too excited for the Amazon 40K television series until you actually start seeing some of it. That's all I'm saying on that. Right. We shall wrap it up there, chat. Oh, Obdulio for $5 on Streamlabs. Nerdrotic already saw that Lothar anime. His verdict is that it's Rings of Power level bad, only that it has visuals, music, and cameos in it from the Peter Jackson trilogy. Girl bossed a no-name character, while the person that history... while the person that history is, really... is sidelined. So the main character sidelined for the girl boss character. Yep. Well, I mean, that was exactly what I said was going to happen. So if that is the reality of it, well, if I had the space to do the Razor Fist, chair spin here, I would do so, but unfortunately, I'm pretty sure I would... I'd smack that immediately. I'd probably hit the table, so... I don't know. It would require a bit of preparation on my part if I am to do that, but, I was right. What else is new? What else is new indeed? Nothing. Nothing else. All right. Is that everything? Did I get it? Yep. Rumble. Yeah, I think. Yeah. Right, chat. Stop lagging. Right, chat. Thank you very much for watching. I will see you all again soon, and thank you for your very generous donations. And let's hope, at least, that this will turn out to be something good. Now that the pendulum is properly swinging, it would be nice to get back to having decent entertainment again, and if 40K could somehow emerge from all of this culture war shit, the stronger for it, that'd be pretty nice. That'd be pretty nice, wouldn't it? Have a good night, chat.